Hello and welcome to WMT Reviews Avengers Month. I am Wiseman Tanofsky. Well, with Iron Man grossing $585 million at the box office on its release, and with the tantalizing setup for the Avengers popped neatly into the after-credits scene, the pressure was really on for Marvel to deliver on its next project. Having taken a massive gamble on an entirely new franchise with their previous film, while also establishing the rules of the new world they were seeking to create, it was time to bring a familiar face into that world. A face that had not been seen since a classic Marvel movie flop in 2003. Could a modern-day remake rescue this character from obscurity and bring him into the Avengers fold? Only time would tell, but merely a month after Iron Man took the world by storm, The Incredible Hulk hit cinemas and hit them hard. With a completely rebooted storyline which skipped over the trap of the dreary origin story setup that most superhero reboots fall into, 2008's The Incredible Hulk was an updated look at one of Marvel's most popular characters, utilising brand new effects to bring the big green rage monster to life on the big screen in all his glory, and an all-star cast to flesh out the human characters who were so skimmed over in the last on-screen adaptation. With an in-depth look at the struggles of Bruce Banner as he battles to control the rage inside him that's constantly destroying his life, the obsession of General Ross as he scours the globe for him, and the personal battle of Betty Ross as she finds herself torn between the two of them, it's an emotional and dramatic journey from start to finish. Does it follow in Iron Man's footsteps to box office success? Let's find out. This is The Incredible Hulk. So, what's the story this time? Bruce Banner, played by Edward Norton, is on the run from the US military as he struggles to keep the Hulk, the key to an army of genetic super soldiers, out of the hands of obsessed General Thunderbolt Ross, played by William Hurt, while also attempting to find a way to cure himself of the Hulk permanently. While corresponding with a fellow scientist to aid himself in this, he crosses paths with his old flame Betty Ross, played by Liv Tyler, daughter of the General himself, who elects to go on the run with Banner to help him, culminating in a battle on the university campus between the Hulk and a genetically altered soldier named Emil Blonsky, played by Tim Roth. However, after seemingly curing himself, Banner finds he needs the Hulk once again, as Blonsky's obsession leads him to being fully transformed into another gamma-fueled monster known as Abomination. After a brutal battle through the streets and rooftops, Hulk smashes his enemy and flees the city, where Banner begins his work not to expel the beast but to learn to control it. I think the main problem that I had with The Incredible Hulk is that, in a similar way to 2014's Godzilla, I was watching a film about the Hulk with not a tremendous amount of the title character in it. In the early scenes of the film it's understandable because there has to be the big build-up to the reveal of the new design and all that, plus the subplot that Banner's obviously trying to not turn into the Hulk for a good portion of the film. The problem was, as a young moviegoer, I just wanted to get to the action. I was waiting for the big leaping out of the glass overpass into the field of soldiers scene that I'd seen in all the clips. I wanted to hear that big roar and see tanks flying here, there and everywhere, and my younger self really didn't have the patience to get to it. Of course, now I can appreciate the build-up of tension, but more so I can appreciate the time and effort put into fleshing out and developing the characters that surround the Hulk. Banner's inner battle with himself, Ross's obsession with finding him, Blonsky's envy of the Hulk's power, Betty's personal conflict of having to choose between lover and father, all these elements which were completely absent from the previous film, I can now recognise and appreciate as the great storytelling angles that they are. So let's have a look at the big guy himself, or rather the little guy himself. Ed Norton as Bruce Banner. I've been a big Norton fan since I saw Fight Club, and he delivers once again with a similar sort of character, the weak and tormented Banner. He's portrayed very well here, everything from his hunched-over body language to his quiet and almost murmured voice. It all works to create this character who's definitely on the run. But he also does very well at the science talk. He doesn't come across as an actor reading from a script with this stuff. He comes across well-educated, he knows what the words are and he knows what they mean. You could imagine this guy standing in front of a room of scientists explaining the process they're about to undertake. And of course I love the scene where the classic Banner line, "You won't like me when I'm angry," is misspoken as "You won't like me when I'm hungry," as he struggles with the local dialect. It injects just the right amount of comedy into a film which would otherwise be drowning in brooding. On the other hand, I've never been a massive fan of Liv Tyler. I'm not saying I don't like her, and yes, she does a really good job of creating her own character in this film, but I think it's the voice. She always sounds like she's whispering. Still, it could always be worse. Aside from this, I found her character very interesting to watch. You can see the inner battle that she's struggling with the same way as you can see it with every other character in the supporting and main cast. I found the scene on the bridge in the rain where they're reunited very moving, and there's a good amount of chemistry between them. enough to form a believable relationship on the screen. I also enjoy the conflict between Betty and her father. It's translated very well from the comics into their performances, with Thunderbolt's very duty-bound perspective and Betty's more emotional one. And so scenes between the two of them are very tense to watch. You can't really say that either of them is in the wrong, it's just that one of them is following orders while the other is following their heart. So let's have a look at Tim Roth as Emil Blonsky. I may have had no idea who this character was when he first walked onto the screen, but I always enjoy Tim Roth. He plays a fantastic villain whenever he takes on that role, and this is no exception. I may have been hoping for a Red Hulk story arc in this film, but I was deeply satisfied with his own sinister storyline. The soldier striving for physical perfection being faced with godhood in big, green and muscular form, and finding himself green with envy, before ultimately winding up destroying himself in the pursuit of it. It's a very classic villain story, told in a very new way, and it's very enjoyable to watch as it unfolds, held up by Roth's intimidating screen presence and his sinister delivery. Taking a look at the big advantage this film had over its predecessor now, the effects. My God, has CG come a long way since 2003. The cheap-looking and almost laughably weightless Hulk is gone, and now we have this massive and lumbering behemoth, covered in rippling green muscles and the perfect depiction of the physics of such a creature. When Hulk goes for one of those tanks, you can see him applying the force to lift it. You can see him straining to add the force to throw it. It's not like a toy being picked up by a child, it is a fully armoured weapon of war being picked up by something even stronger. There's no weightless look, and even the dreaded black line of CG effects is nowhere to be seen. And when Hulk and Abomination go at it in the streets, you can almost feel every punch, every crash, every pounding moment of that battle. What could easily have looked like two clay models being thrown at one another comes across exactly how you would want it, and the result is simply incredible. So, how does this film stack up against other films in the MCU? Well, in all honesty, it's kind of slow. Don't get me wrong, no one appreciates good character development more than I do. I like knowing as much as I can about the characters I'm watching, and the fact that this movie skips over the boring origin story repeat means we can get into the story it's trying to tell even faster. It's just kind of a slow story. It takes a while before soldiers start kicking in doors, Banner starts running through streets constantly having to check his heart rate, until finally the big green is unleashed and we all get what we came for. That being said, there are some very moving slow scenes in the film. I love the scene in the cave between Hulk and Betty, just the looks on their faces, in their eyes, superb work by the animation department, and the score really works well to complement it too. Once the film gets going, the pacing starts to flow a bit more organically, and you can start to become fully invested in what's happening. I just think it wouldn't have suffered too much from losing a few of those earlier scenes that it didn't really achieve anything with, in order to get the movie going a little bit sooner. The Incredible Hulk brought in less than half of Iron Man's box office success at $263 million, but I don't think the movie itself reflects that at all. In all likelihood, I would attribute that to a bad memory of the previous movie, or perhaps people being confused at whether this was intended to be a sequel and not wanted to see it for that reason. I certainly thought it was a sequel when I first saw it, and I didn't want to see it for that reason. I don't think it's a bad film at all. I think it tells a good story with good, strong characters, some enjoyable performances, and effects which are more up to the task of creating the big screen monster than its predecessor. And for that, it earns itself a respectable 7 on the Awesometer. Lacking some of the more balanced pacing in the first and second act, but all round a good and enjoyable movie. So that's a 7 on the Awesometer for The Incredible Hulk. I've been Wiseman Tanofsky, this has been WMT Reviews Avengers Month. Thank you very much for listening.